All right. Why don't we get started? So you don't have to write anything down. Let's see if I can get here. Because all of this will be on our website as part of a blog post. Some of you may know we now have a running blog with entries that get updated regularly with events or notes from our monthly meetings. So you don't have to jot down links or try to download apps while we do this. It'll be pretty quick anyway. The focus, as I mentioned in the notes in the announcement, will be on iOS and iPhones, latest versions. But all of this stuff is very common. It's not particularly new. So Googling for your version of iOS or your phone, which may not be the latest one, or for Android, all of this is available on all the different platforms. So you just have to do a little bit of Googling. We will do a Q&A afterwards. And if you have additional thoughts on what else to do with your phone, that'd be great. Share them with everybody, please. And we can also follow up on later on Slack. Okay, all of this assumes that there is a disaster. CERT has been activated. We're probably in day 3 to 10 or whatever of the post-disaster situation. Most likely, we will not have cellular service, or it'll be very intermittent. Um, there may not be internet service for the same reasons. We will have, the assumption is we will have both power and internet at the Internet Command Post trailer. So keep that in mind. Most of these things I'm going to show you are basically apps that are free or built in with the operating system already. So it's just an FYI. Many of you will know a lot of this stuff. So let's start with power, because obviously all of this assumes that your phone is able to be powered. And so a lot of people have the wall chargers, and then they have a power bank. That's perfectly fine. It's 2 devices though, and you can actually get, and I recommend, one device that does both in one. So you basically plug this in and you can charge from it directly, but it'll also charge up a battery. So that single brick will do both things in one go. That's very handy. Anker makes these. Do not buy cheap Chinese chargers because they may blow up your phones. Anker is a good brand. There's a bunch of other ones. You can look on Amazon. Get the ones that say GAN. That's gallium nitride, I think. It's a more compact power delivery solution. So I recommend that. Of course, if you're at home and you have no generator, you may also have one of these at home. That's a larger battery. We use these at the ICP trailer as well. These will charge your phone, I don't know, 100 times or something once it's charged up, and they're highly recommended for like home use. And we will have plenty of those, like 3 or 4, I think, at the trailers as well for the staging area. The next thing to do is to reduce power usage. So when you are already kind of not able to recharge it all the time, make sure that your phone uses as little power as possible. And there's a few quick tips. We're not going to go through all of them, but a quick tips is to initiate low power mode. And that's basically going into the settings, going into battery, and then selecting low power mode. And what that will show you is, you can see at the top right here of this image, of the iPhone image, that it shows a yellow battery instead of a blue, instead of a green, I think it is usually. And what that will do is it will reduce the power usage that your phone automatically does exchanges with servers to update apps, to update your email, to update all kinds of stuff, which is, you don't need that if you know that there's no internet. So having it on yellow, I actually do that a lot of times, even regularly during the day without a disaster, is a good idea. So that's low power mode. The second thing is, on modern phones, you can use dark mode or light mode. Usually that switches automatically. At night, it goes to dark mode, which means the backgrounds are all black. Many of these phones have OLED displays that actually require lighting up the screen to make it bright. And so if you want to save power, make the background black, and it doesn't have to light up the screen. Saves a little bit of extra power. Easy. The third thing that's easy to do is to put the phone into airplane mode when you are mobile and you know that you don't have connection, because the phone will otherwise try to connect with Wi-Fi and will scan for Wi-Fi all the time. And if you know that's useless, then you can just save the power and not have the phone do that. So that was power. That's the first thing. It's a prerequisite for everything else we're going to talk about. The next thing that I highly recommend, everybody knows Google Maps or Apple Maps. I highly recommend that you download offline maps, which makes it possible. Please mute yourself if you're not Robert. Oh, okay, fair enough. Yes, somebody, everybody, Tom, almost everybody's muted now. Eric and Tom maybe can mute themselves, but I don't think they're allowed. Um, anyway, the Google Maps and Apple Maps allow you to download while you're pre-disaster, of course. This is the whole point, to download maps and then to use them if you are not connected at all to the net. Almost the same functionality. Not everything. You can't look up opening times of restaurants and so forth. Not really important, but you can ask what a location is. You can ask where a location is, an address. You can look at house numbers. I especially like Google Maps for this purpose because when you zoom in, and this picture shows it, when you zoom in into Google Maps long enough, you actually get house numbers. This is extremely useful if we're going to do damage assessment teams, mobile teams that go around and basically have to report they see a collapsed building, which is 140, Erica Way or whatever, and also to orient yourself where you are, because you may not always be able to see the house number painted on the side of the street because a car may be parked in front of it, for example. So um, I recommend downloading the Google Maps. For the same area, Google Maps is almost 3 times as efficient as Apple Maps. So if you download all of the South Peninsula, let's say from Belmont to Mountain View, that's in Google, that's 50 megabytes, and in Apple, it's 130 megabytes. It's all very small. It's like 2 images in your photos or something. So feel free to take the whole peninsula and download it into your offline maps. Um, Now I'm going to get a bit tricky and see whether I can do this. I'm going to try to share my phone. Quickly show you that. Share. I may be asking it too much. Can you see my phone?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So I'm just going to show you the Google Maps, how to download something. It's very easy. So on top, on the right here, you see that monkey. That's my logo. And you'll have your person here. So you click on that. And then you see this pop-up window and it says offline maps. And then in here, you just say select your own map. Whoop-de-doo. You zoom out to wherever you want. Let's do the whole peninsula. That's 130 megs all the way down to Santa Cruz. So it's very doable. You just say download. It'll download over Wi-Fi right now. It'll tell you when it's done. It'll actually automatically try to update it from time to time. Once every year, I think it'll update that. Um, and it's very handy because you can, if you get dispatched from ICP and the particular address is given to you, you can just type in the address and it'll tell you how to get there. If you're lost somewhere or the road is closed and you have to take a different route, maps are a really useful tool to help you out in that context. So I highly recommend downloading offline maps. Okay, let's see whether I can go back to my original screen. Here we go. The next thing is Wi-Fi calling. This is the ability of the phone to make regular voice calls, even if the cell phone service is not available, assuming you have Wi-Fi available. And you make the assumption at our ICP, we will have Starlink, which means Wi-Fi, so you can make voice calls over Wi-Fi, assuming you have set that up beforehand. And you do need to set that up beforehand because it requires a handshake with a cellular provider. So you can't do this if you don't have cell phone service. So you have to do this kind of before. So you go into settings, apps, the phone app, and then Wi-Fi calling in this phone and enable that. Again, there'll be links to that. So I'm just giving you the quick overview rather than showing you exactly how to do that. And many of you will figure it out just from the picture here. Okay, next one. I highly recommend, again, take photos of everything when you are on CERT duty. If you're a mobile team doing damage assessment, take pictures. If you see power lines down, infrastructure down, take pictures. It is very useful and is a good record. Obviously, make sure you're safe first, but take pictures. If you see a lost dog, I mean that you can't take the dog, shouldn't take the dog along. But the picture may serve later on as a way to reunite the owner with the dog, with a specific dog, because they will see that dog and they know that tag and they go, that's mine. There may also be situations, if you're in traffic control, for example, and the sheriff has said you cannot go up there. The road is closed. We are not the police. We can advise, but eventually that person will just do whatever they want to do. And you can always take a picture of the car and the license plate, and we'll give that to the sheriff. Very easy. Um, the other thing you can, oh yeah, before I go to that one, I will say that the phone is very good. These phones nowadays, the cameras are good at taking low light pictures. And that can be particularly useful. Let's say you have to look into crevices, you have to look behind something, you have to look in a small hole, you hear a noise, you have to, you want to see what's going on there. You can take pictures with the phones, even in the dark. Of course, you can turn on the flash, but the phone is very good nowadays. It's called computational photography, where it takes 30 pictures in a row and it'll stack them up on top of each other and add basically the light it gets from each picture. And it'll get almost a daylight picture out of a crevice that's very dark. So experiment with that. It's a very useful feature and it can be very handy. The next place I highly recommend taking photos of is if you have forms, either that you are quickly shown and then somebody takes it away, or you are filling out that form. And when you get back to the incident command point, you hand over that form. That's, for example, if you're doing a damage assessment team, on the debrief, when you come back, you will write down, or the ops manager will write down the debrief, but then that form leaves your hands and goes into the command post. I recommend you just take pictures, because forms get lost, and anyway, you have that reference. It's good to have them as backup and as reference. And also, if people show you while you're on a mobile team, incident command, whatever, somebody says, I have been given this document, I'm allowed to stay here, whatever, you just take a picture of it. So taking picture is a very useful tool. These cameras are so good now, you don't even have to think about it. You just take a picture. It is useful and important, or it's not important, but it's helpful to turn location on for photos. All these phones now have GPSs built in. GPS will work if cellular network is down and Wi-Fi is down. And it's helpful to have the pictures tagged with the location, because then you can go on a map in the Photos app and say, well, where is this picture from? Or which pictures did I take at that intersection where the incident report happened? So you can go into location services in settings, they have to be on, and the camera app has to be, while using GPS is on, and I would recommend using precise location for that. And then you can find a map in your Photos app of all the photos where they were taken. Very handy.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get back to ICP, let's say you have a bunch of photos and you want to give them to ops or whoever needs the photos. Maybe it's a medical issue, somebody has a wound, and you say, well, I don't know what to do with that, but here is the photo. The iPhone has a very good feature called AirDrop, which allows you to transfer massive amounts, like megabytes in seconds, of photos, videos, and other files from your phone to somebody else's phone or laptop. So, and assume that somebody in ICP has a laptop that can receive your photos. So it's very easy to do. You just go into your photo library, you select which photos you want to share by just clicking on them when you get a blue check mark. And then you press this share button at the bottom. And then you get what's called the share sheet. And the first thing in the share sheet is AirDrop. And when you press that, you will get all the people that are willing to receive AirDrops at the moment. You have to allow reception. So ICP will have that set up so that the ICP laptop or whatever is able to receive your photos. And you just press go, and it'll dump 30 photos in 10 seconds. It's really fast. It does not require internet. It does, however, require you to turn on your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So just turn off airplane mode when you come back. No problem, easy. The nice thing, it does, unlike email or SMS or any of these other methods, it does not degrade the photos. It doesn't downsample them like email into a postage stamp size photo. And it maintains location data, which again is very useful if ICP wants to know where those photos were taken. So keep that in mind, sharing via AirDrop back at ICP. Screenshots, another very handy tool, because there may be many apps that you use and you may see something on your screen that you want to share, but the app may not have a good sharing mechanism. Well, it's very easy. Take a screenshot, and then it becomes a photo in your Photos app, and you can share it just like the other photos I just showed you. So on the modern phones here, you just you press the volume button and the volume up and the power button at the same time, and they'll take a screenshot. Your screen will go white for a second. It'll make a sound, and then you get that picture in the middle with the little screenshot in the lower left. You click on that, and then you can do other things with that screenshot. You can edit it if you wanted to, annotate it. By default, you may not need to do that. You can also share it immediately, or you can save it to your photos. So very handy for later if you're in an app that doesn't have like intrinsic sharing capabilities. So photos are a very generic mechanism to share. Okay, another thing that I find useful, and it's actually gotten better in recent versions, is the ability to record sounds and conversations with your iPhone. Not surreptitiously, I mean, there is laws about that, but assuming you have permission to record a conversation, let's say you are on a damage assessment team and you're driving around and you're taking pictures of structures to make sure that they're all recorded, but a resident is outside their building because they are obviously after an earthquake, they don't want to go back in. So maybe they're in the street in front of the house and they have some questions for you. And they're all, it's very fast and you're very fast and your scribe may not be able to keep track. Well, just press record what they're saying. And guess what? Transcription into text is now built into this app. This is a standard app that comes with the iOS. And so you just press record and later on you go on that little button that's down here that looks like a speech bubble, and it'll give you the transcribed text. And unlike the early versions of Siri, this is actually a pretty good transcription. You can copy paste this, you can save it. Very handy. And if you're a scribe, this will be a way to capture all the information, even if you're not able to like write along as the person is telling you things. Very handy. And these recordings can also be exchanged via AirDrop when you get back to ICP. Very handy also if you hear noises and you can't identify them. Maybe it's an animal in distress, maybe it's a person. If you're doing damage assessment, really, we will talk about that at some other time, but your point is to go very fast. And so you can't really stop and analyze and Hercule Poirot the whole thing, but the more information you can take down either by recording sounds or video or photos, the better. All right, this is one that I think we'll have to train a little bit more. It is important that mobile teams, whether you're medical or incident response or damage assessment or traffic, that you check back into ICP every 15 minutes. It's important that ICP knows where every team is so that we can ensure everybody's safety and we can recall you if necessary, or we can give you additional information. So since it's easy to forget in the, spur of the moment and when you're very adrenaline high while you're driving around recording things or responding to events, just have your scribe or your radio operator maybe even set a timer for 15 minutes. And when it rings, the radio operator will just call back and check back in with ICP. And the easiest way to do that is just to say, hey, Siri, set a timer for 15 minutes. You can do it other ways too, but that's just the fastest. And that's very handy. All right. Another one that's pretty handy is the magnifier app. It is built into iOS, and it allows you to read like small print. Let's say you're on the side of the road, you're helping somebody. They say, oh, my grandma needs to take this medicine. And you go, well, I don't know what the medicine is, but you shouldn't be taking more than 2 per hour or whatever. So not that you're giving anybody medicine, but there's often situations where you need to read something that's very small. So let me share my phone again. Share. Let's see whether that clicks in. Yep, I think that's it. So then you start this app and you can see this is now this bottle. You can zoom in. Oops, that's the light. You can zoom in either by, this is text that's smaller than 1 millimeter. A lot of us that are older have used this app in restaurants where the menus are dark and unreadable, and because you can actually turn the flashlight on as well. Very handy. You can then take a capture to take a photo, and look at it. And now you can basically be away from this because you may not be able to hold it or look behind or underneath something for long enough, but you can just take it away and now you can look at it, zoom it up some more. It's a very handy app, and the flashlight is there as well for you. So yes, I recommend. So that's that. And it's also, I have used it for wounds inspection if you want to remove a splinter, because sometimes you can't focus really easily with your human eyes that closely, and the splinter is very small, but you can basically see almost, you can see hairs on your skin. So it's really zooms in quite a lot. Very handy app for that. Okay, let's switch back to the screen. And again, standard built in, so make use of it. Okay, back here, translate app. This is a bit maybe more experimental. We are a pretty white neighborhood up here, but it's very possible that during an emergency, you may encounter somebody, seniors or kids or people in shock who do not speak English fluently, and you may not be able to speak Vietnamese or Chinese or Spanish or whatever the case may be. There is a translate app built into iOS called Apple Translate. It can translate offline, so it doesn't have to be connected to the internet, unlike some other translate apps. It can translate text. So when you see something, you can just copy and paste it or type it in. It can translate speech, and there's even a conversational mode. So you can literally hold it up to the person, press record. They will say something in Spanish. You press the button, it'll translate it into English. Then you press the button and speak in English, and it'll translate it to Spanish and so forth. And you can also take pictures. If somebody hands you a pamphlet in Vietnamese and you go, you need, or they write down where it hurts, then or what symptoms they have, take a picture, of course, but you can also translate that picture in the phone right away, right there. It is flaky, I have found. So I wouldn't put 100% trust in that, but it can be helpful. Okay, let's see. That was, how are we doing? 24. Okay, I'm good on time. I want to not make that too long. So there are some third-party apps that I recommend. Everything I've shown you up to now is basically built into Android or iPhone. Here's some third-party apps. The first one is the successor to Zonehaven, which you may know from back in the day when WPV-Ready recommended everybody knows where their evacuation zone is. Still a recommendation. Zonehaven was acquired by a company called Genesis. They now have an app called Genesis Protect, which you can download, which you can say, I am in this zone. It'll actually alert you if you need to evacuate. But it's also handy for certs to know where the evacuation zones are, because it is likely that we will do work by zone, because that's how the Woodside Fire Protection District dispatches things. They told us. So we'll iterate on that, but most likely we will do things such as damage assessments by zone. And so it's useful to know where those zones are, and the app has that. There is also a web version of it, but of course that requires to be connected to the internet. Next one is PulsePoint, optional, handy. I like it. I use it. Basically gives you Woodside Fire Protection District and related EMSs like San Mateo County and so forth, emergency response, the current events. It's basically taps into their computer-aided dispatch system and gives you the list of events that they're currently responding to and the history, and a map of where those incidents are, whether it's a power line down, a medical emergency, a house fire, whatever. So, and it tells you what the response is, how many engines, what kind of equipment they dispatch. It's just interesting when you see an engine go by, full on blaring lights, where they're going. All right. Next one is for fire, called Watch Duty. There are lots of places where you can get information, public and news sources about a particular fire incident. This app just aggregates that into one page. There are people behind the app that actually, there are some algorithms, but also people that aggregate things like press reports, news releases, Twitters from the fire departments, police departments, weather reports, evacuation notices, and so forth. I watched it on the fires down Palisades and Altadena, and it was very responsive. They have a lot of information in the app, and they update it quite often. So I think it's useful, so you don't have to go to Twitter and X other applications. This, of course, assumes they do have connectivity. First Aid, handy app from the American Red Cross. It's not a replacement for a doctor, but it can quickly jog your memory of what you've learned in the two very rudimentary first aid classes. Gives you a quick checklist, reminders. It does work offline. There's also a pet first aid, if you're interested in that, from the American Red Cross. And this is a bit more far away. People do put their radios, these handheld radios, that you can connect the audio to a laptop, and then the laptop can transmit the audio over the internet as a stream. And so there's a couple of these apps out there that you can listen to emergency services around the world, actually, or around the country. You just type in where you are, and it says, okay, you can have San Francisco PD, San Mateo County alerts, and so forth. So you can live listen. Again, this, of course, requires the internet, and it's not so much for a disaster, but for now. All right, then a couple of websites, and then we're done. Alert California. This is a handy website. There's hundreds of cameras in the area, everywhere from Seattle, Oregon, California. I think they even have some in Arizona, in the forests, up on the hills, that are pan-tilt zoom cameras that can look around, and they record. You can look at a live image, and you can look at time lapses, everything from the last 5 minutes to the last 24 hours. And it's interesting to see smoke and fire's evolution during a fire. Again, this is more observing somebody else rather than, I mean, we're not going to have time to do that when we're actually deployed. I'm just telling you, FYI. And then this one, we have a Town of Portola Valley emergency radio station, which Ray is in the process of figuring out how we update that kind of live and more often in case of an emergency. Most cars are able to receive AM radios. I don't think many other things are able to receive AM radio anymore, but that is something we can tell people to listen to if we see them on the road. There are other useful sites, and I think we can iterate on that list some more as we iterate along. PG&E outage maps and reporting, Cal Water outage maps, and a bunch of other emergency websites and phone numbers, TBD, how much of that we want to actually publish and use ourselves, because there is obviously a certain flow of command and unity of command that we don't want to abuse. All right, that is it. Woo! 8:30, I said half an hour. Yes. Okay. So that ends my presentation, but I would love to have anybody who wants to chime in and add information or, yeah, ask questions.
A couple of the other, this is Bev Scott. A couple of the other mapping things that can help that could be offline is also CalTopo and also organic maps. CalTopo has a free version that works well enough. We did a COM test last week or weekend before last, and it really came in handy to find addresses in our county that aren't even on maps. So.
Very good. And I just put that in the chat here. Anybody else? Hopefully this was not too overwhelming. As I said, I will put all that up, both the slides and the links to further information on a blog post on our WPV-CERT.org website.
This is Dudley. There's also the NOAA weather maps and anything to do with weather that might be useful to know, especially when we're watching a fire develop.
Good. Yep. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Selena, was that information appropriate, or should I not? I should have asked you before, I guess, but
No.
like everything was fine.
Yeah, of course, everything was fine.
Okay.
I just think full circle too. I know, Robert, you gave so many useful apps out there. Just in general too. Another one is My Shake, right? The earthquake one. Our phones in California, lucky enough, will give us the presidential alerts or the Amber, the WEA alerts and whatnot. But it is an interesting app to have just in general for the earthquake information. But I learned a lot today, Robert. Thank you.
All right, good. Well, last call for informational questions before we shut it down. I wanted this to be short and sweet. Like, hopefully, some upcoming meetings will be a little bit longer, but this was a short one. Nothing heard. Okay, that will be all then. I thank you for attending, and yeah, keep if you notice something over the next weeks, days, months, just share it on Slack, and I will update the blog post with additional information. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you,
Have
Robert.
a
That
good
was well
evening.
done.
Bye.
Thanks, Rob.